They pushed you into shadows, thinking the darkness would swallow you whole. They whispered your name like it was a weakness. They closed doors softly, smiling politely, as if exile was mercy. They dimmed the lights around you and said, "Stay there. This is where you belong." And for a moment, just a moment, you almost believed them. You felt the cold of isolation wrap around your shoulders. You felt the silence stretch longer than your courage. You felt the weight of being underestimated press against your chest like a stone. They thought the shadows would make you disappear. They thought obscurity would erase you. They thought loneliness would make you beg for their approval. But they forgot something. They forgot that seeds grow in darkness. They forgot that stars are born in the void. They forgot that warriors are forged in the night. And they forgot who you are. They expected you to shrink. They expected you to question yourself every time they doubted you. They expected you to replay their insults in your mind like a broken record. They expected you to stay small, safe, silent, invisible. They thought pushing you aside would make you fade. They thought ignoring your efforts would make you quit. They thought betrayal would break your backbone. They thought wrong. Because while they were watching the spotlight, you were mastering the dark. While they were chasing applause, you were building endurance. While they were measuring status, you were sharpening substance. They expected tears. Instead, you trained. They expected collapse. Instead, you calculated. They expected revenge. Instead, you chose evolution. Do you remember those nights when the room was quiet but your mind was loud? When doubt crept in like fog, whispering, "Maybe they're right"? You remember, but you also remember something else. You remember the moment you stood up alone and decided that even if no one believed in you, you would. That was the shift. That was the beginning. In the shadows, you learned to see without light. You learned to trust your instincts. You learned to hear your own heartbeat louder than their opinions. You learned that silence can be strength. At first it hurt, the exclusion, the dismissive glances, the conversations that stopped when you walked in. It burned. But that fire, it didn't consume you, it refined you. You stopped asking for permission. You stopped explaining your dreams to people committed to misunderstanding them. You stopped chasing validation from hands that only knew how to push. Instead, you built, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. While they slept, you studied. While they gossiped, you practiced. While they laughed at your ambition, you disciplined your mind. The shadows became your training ground. Every rejection became resistance training. Every betrayal became a blueprint. Every setback became a silent teacher. You began to see clearly. They didn't push you into darkness to destroy you. They pushed you there because your light threatened them. And isn't it ironic? The very place they sent you to weaken you became the place you found your strength. Like a phoenix learning the language of fire. Like a storm discovering its own thunder. Like a diamond realizing pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. You changed, not loudly, not for applause, but deeply. Your pain stopped being a wound. It became a weapon. Your loneliness stopped being empty. It became focus. Your silence stopped being awkward. It became power. And then they noticed. At first it was subtle, a glance that lingered too long. A question asked with hidden curiosity, a tone that shifted from mockery to confusion. They sensed it. Something about you was different. You weren't reacting anymore. You weren't defending yourself. You weren't trying to prove anything. You moved with calm certainty. You spoke less, but when you did, it landed. You smiled, not to please, but because you knew something they didn't. Did they really think you'd stay broken? Did they really think the shadows would be your grave? No. The shadows were your laboratory, and you came out transformed. They started whispering again, but this time, it wasn't about your weakness. It was about your growth. They wondered how you stayed composed, how you didn't lash out, how you didn't crumble. They wanted to see cracks, but you had turned your fractures into stained glass, beautiful, intentional, unbreakable. Their confusion grew into discomfort. Because when someone you underestimated begins to rise, it forces you to confront your own stagnation. They pushed you down. Now they watch you stand taller than ever. They excluded you. Now they notice your independence. They tried to silence you. Now your presence speaks before you do. And here's the truth that unsettles them most. You didn't need them to win. You didn't need their approval. You didn't need their invitation. You didn't need their permission. You needed the shadows. Something powerful happens when you stop trying to be seen. You start becoming undeniable. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped arguing with small minds. You stopped shrinking to fit insecure spaces. And suddenly, you expanded. Your mindset widened like the horizon at sunrise. Your confidence rooted itself like an ancient tree. Your energy became selective, sacred. You no longer chased rooms that refused to welcome you. You built your own table. You built your own stage. You built your own kingdom. Crown forged from rejection. Armor shaped by adversity. Sword sharpened by solitude. Every 500 steps you took in silence became a mile in mastery. You learned emotional control. You learned strategic patience. You learned that indifference is the ultimate power, because the greatest revenge, it's peace. The greatest flex, it's growth. The loudest statement, silence backed by results. They expected anger. You gave them excellence. They expected bitterness. You gave them brilliance. They expected you to beg. You gave them distance. And distance is dangerous, because from a distance you see clearly. You see who supported you. You see who doubted you. You see who projected their fears onto your potential. And you forgive, but you never forget. Not out of spite, but out of wisdom. Now look at you. You walk differently, not arrogantly, but assured. Your back is straight, your gaze steady, your energy controlled. You don't react to provocation. You don't chase validation. You don't entertain disrespect. Why? Because the shadows taught you your worth. They taught you that value is not given, it's recognized. And if someone cannot recognize it, that's their limitation, not yours. You stopped fearing being alone. You realized solitude is a sanctuary. You realized silence is strategic. You realized that being underestimated is an advantage. Let them think you're still in the shadows. Let them think you're still quiet. Let them think you're still small. Because while they're underestimating you, you're evolving again and again and again. Every time they doubt, you develop. Every time they dismiss, you discipline. Every time they overlook, you outgrow. The pattern is clear now. They push, you rise. They mock, you master. They exclude, you expand. Who really won?